Here I is. It's always like a surprise that comes on so suddenly. You always think you have more time, and then the show starts. And here we are. So thanks everybody for coming out tonight and watching this episode. And I've been having fun doing this, and I'm going to keep doing it for the time being, as long as we have questions. And there are tons of questions. And boy, today was a busy day. I don't know. I was up at like 6:30. I don't know why. I was up early. I was sitting here doing work all the morning. Then I decided to go out and do some walking in the park because I thought it was going to get really hot. It wasn't that hot, but did my like power walk through the woods. Then I had to rush home. I had a meeting at like 1 o'clock, 12:30, trying to do a bunch of AI stuff with my email and my website. And so now I'm trying to figure it out on my own. So this company I'm trying to use, I asked them for help, and they organized this call, Lindy AI. And so I thought, I was going to be chatting. They wanted to go on Zoom. It was like 5 people from the company on this Zoom call. And I'm like, just for me. So we spend an hour them trying to integrate this stuff into my website, into my email and stuff. And it's a lot of work. So it's not done yet. So after an hour or more of trying to get AI stuff to work, to auto answer emails and to do some other tasks and stuff like that, that was exhausting. I was going to cook. I was kind of tired to cook. So it's been a busy day today. So it's good to finally just sit down and chat and do this. And I think I'll be asleep real early tonight after running around all day. But nevertheless, here we are. And if you're new on the show, my name is Michael. I'm a women's photographer from New Jersey. I've been a pro photographer for over 15, 16 years or so, way too long. And I've worked with hundreds of women and had a great time doing that. And then, so this show is about helping and answering some questions that people may have about boudoir or the boudoir photography process, because we want everyone to be safe, be smart, and have the knowledge to choose the right photographer for their session, because as many people may think it's such an easy thing to do, it is not. And we have a question in here tonight, which really kind of, unfortunately, we get these once in a while, which kind of explains that. And the one thing you have to do when it comes to women's photography and boudoir photographers, you always can't think all photographers are the same. You always have to keep that kitchen nightmares example in the back of your head, because you would never assume all restaurants are the same. So you should never assume all photographers are the same, or just because they call themselves something, that means they know what they're doing. And, it's just really kind of a mess sometimes when it comes to getting involved with the photographer. So it's about giving you the information and the resources you need to make sure you're making a smart decision for yourself. And that way you go through and have a great experience on your session and enjoy your pictures for years and years to come. So that's what we're doing here tonight. And I've been getting, oh my gosh, talk about hate. So much hate about the background music. And you know who you are, people. In my videos, is it really that bad and that annoying? I kind of like the music. It just fills in the empty space, but people can't stand the music, and what's with the music, and I hate the music. And I'm like, the music was so offensive. My goodness, I'm just ruffling feathers all over the interweb. So we'll work out something with the music situation. I kind of like it. I've turned it way down. It's so down I can't even hear it, but we'll see how it turns out this week, and we'll adjust it. We'll come to a compromise there when it comes to the music. So we'll get going. Have a bunch of questions in here tonight, and let me get in here and fiddle around with this, and we will get started. And again, you have to forgive me for keep sipping on my water here. Allergy voice is still bad, especially by this time of the day, but we will go onward. And this first question tonight is a very common question. And again, people don't really understand necessarily what boudoir photography is. They think if you have a woman in underwear, no matter what it is, that's boudoir photography. Very, very wrong. And so this is a question that pops up a lot, so you can understand the difference. And what's the difference between boudoir photography and erotic photography? And sometimes people don't know there isn't exactly a difference. And there is a difference. And you can, or I can look at a photo and you could tell if it's boudoir photography or not, very quickly. And the main difference is, well, there are several, but boudoir photography is more beauty centered. It's about making women look beautiful, look cute. It is not necessarily a focus on body parts or sexuality. It may be a bit voyeuristic where you're watching a woman in her own private space doing what she's doing and posing, but it is not necessarily about blatant sexuality. Now, see, this is where it gets tricky, because can there be nudity in boudoir? Yes, but again, it's not about focusing in on just like body parts. It's about you looking at a photo and go, oh, she looks cute, or she looks pretty, or it's about creating a whole vibe in a photo. Now, erotic photography, on the other hand, is definitely something that is more sexually oriented. There may be more, I hate to use the word graphic, but just sort of graphic photos of body parts and more overt sexuality in those photos. It can be things that you may not see in boudoir photography, and can there be a crossover between those two in any session? Yeah, absolutely. There is plenty of area where they can cross over, where you can have some of each in a session. But if you're going into to do photos, and not that one is right or one is wrong, and there's also some boudoir is held in a very kind of specific location. It's a bedroom setting, a woman's private changing area. Erotic photography can technically be anywhere. You could be on a kitchen table, and that's could be erotic photography. It's not boudoir if you're taking photos on a kitchen table. So I mean, there are some technical differences there, and boudoir is actually pretty specific of what it actually is. But I'm just talking about in the broader sense of that. When you're talking about erotic photography, it's just a bit more sexual in nature, and you're going to see some type of content which is going to be more explicit in erotic photography than you would and in that photography. You're not really getting the impression, oh, she looks cute in that erotic kind of a photo. So there is a subtle difference, but a difference there. There's definitely, like I noted, places where they may cross over, and you can certainly have both of those in a session. One's not right, the other's not wrong. When women come in to do their photo sessions, like I always talk about over the last 5-6 years, it definitely has skewed to be more sexual in nature, or if you want to call that sort of erotic. But, as I also note all the time, erotic is a, not the same thing to every single person. And one person's erotic is another person's tame, so there's not a standard definition to that. It's very, comes down to the person. What one person's erotic is not another. So, you have to, erotic can mean a whole bunch of things. You ask 10 people, they can get 10 different definitions. So it's very difficult to come up with a kind of a standard definition for that. But I would say in a broader sense, the photos are going to be more sexual in nature, not necessarily in a bedroom setting. It's kind of a broader definition. And sometimes people ask me, is there a special photographer that does erotic photography? And yes, I have seen some photographers that, really more specialize in like erotic photography. I've seen websites for people who do like purely erotic photography, cut out the cute stuff. We're getting straight to the good stuff, straight to the business. So there are, and if that's something that is your preference, because the one thing to keep in mind, again, that we always talk about is not all women or boudoir photographers are comfortable or want to shoot more explicit material. So if you are inclined or really want to go in and say, I really want to explore my wild side a bit, just always talk with the photographer you're thinking about working with and making sure they're okay of your plans and what you have in mind. Because, the worst thing is to pay all that money, go in for your session and find out that the photographer is really not game for kind of shooting or doing what you wanted to do. So that again is why it's super important to pick the right person, do this little bit of work. Don't just close your eyes and, point at a chalkboard or a billboard and pick out the name of the photographer. You have to do a little bit of work and really pick the person that's going to be able to turn your vision into the reality for you. So good question. Good way to start off tonight and keep me talking. And excuse me while I get some lemon lime seltzer. See if my voice makes it through the next couple of questions here. And we're good. On to the next one. I came across a Facebook group for new boudoir photographers trying to get into the field. You think it's worth hiring one to save a few dollars for a surprise anniversary gift? So this is something that I'm kind of always have been against. I think there's little upside and more downside to this. But, this really boils down to a lot of human nature and how poorly people are programmed to shop. And this is the reason why you cannot even buy any real ice cream like in a grocery store anymore. And like, Mike, what the hell are you talking about? Well, people are so hooked on finding something less than whatever it is that they want. Now, I see all this on all the time, like on Instagram or something. People Skims dress. Oh, that's the knockoff for the Skims dress because it's cheaper. Lululemon. Oh, this is the knockoff for it. It's going to be cheaper. People are always in this hunt for whatever it is that they want to try to find things that are cheaper. And then in the knockoff, we need something cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. So when you get into this race to the bottom and you're always looking for something less and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, you're not getting initially what you thought you wanted. And we're talking about ice cream, and people are always looking for the cheapest thing in the aisle. What's less? And you go grab that carton, and it's not even ice cream. They can't even legally call it ice cream. And it's one of those things that you can leave it on your counter overnight, and it doesn't even melt. You look in the box, and it's still a foamy, globby mass that it was when you left it out there the night before. And then you read the ingredients, and it's all chemicals and emulsifiers and foam, and it's not even anything in there that you can pronounce in the ingredients. It's not even food. It's not even ice cream. It's not even anything you'd really want to put in your body. So why is it in the grocery store? Because you don't want to pay for real ice cream and you don't care. So these companies are all right. So we'll just make it and they take out, and it's just less and less and less until it's not even ice cream anymore, but you still buy it. Why? Because it's $2 less or $3 less than the real ice cream. So what are you getting? You're getting a bunch of crap just because you want to save some money. So this is very similar to that situation. Rolling back to the original question. Boy, I'm on a rant here. You think I'd be drinking something stronger than water. But new boudoir photographers are a real risk. As we talk, right? It's not an easy thing to do. Odds are someone in a newbie group of photographers, especially if it's for a wedding, you really want to gamble your wedding gift like on the lowest bidder to, is that really how you shop for everything else for your wedding? Or did you take a lot of time and pick out the best venue and the best caterers and best bands or whatever? You didn't all right, so who's the less? You didn't go, okay, we're catering from Taco Bell because we can get a chalupa for everybody for $2. Why would I spend $80 on a meal, because you just don't do it that way. So don't shop for your photography in that matter. The lowest price is not always the best choice. So in a newbie group of people learning how to do women's photography on Facebook, it's great. And everybody has to start somewhere, and I get it. But just because someone dangles a free, or we'll get to this in a moment, or low price, do your whole thing for $30, you're probably not in physical danger, but in terms of experience and what you're going to get, it's not going to be good. It's just not. And what people don't understand when it comes to women's photography too, it's about the experience. It's about how often do you do something like this, and having someone who's going to be able to guide you and put you at ease. And they've done this a lot. And with photography too, it's not something that, you grab a camera and suddenly you call yourself a pro photographer, which is what a lot of people do now. As I always talk about, you would never pick up a golf club, never having golf before, and suddenly call yourself a pro golfer, would you? No, that's crazy. Well, I mean, I bought the most expensive golf club in the store. Doesn't that mean I'm automatically like a pro golfer? No. Why? Because it takes a long time to learn, years and years to practice a golf to become good at it. So likewise, photography is very similar, like any kind of skill like that. It takes a long time for someone really to not just learn the technical part of photography, but how to pose with women and work for women and put people at ease. And the whole process is really involved. It takes a long time. There's not a lot of people who do it really, really well. So when you're looking in that group, and I don't know anybody in that group, and again, everybody has to start somewhere, and I'm not casting aspersions on anybody, but probably don't want to go picking from a newbie Facebook group, to your life's memories from, or for your wedding or your anniversary gift. Save up, do it the right way, go to someone in your area who's experienced, and you could chat with them and they have a history of work, and you could see and go, ooh, I really like those pictures. That's what I want to do. And it's not going to be, the $2.99 store brand of ice cream. It's just not. It's just not how it works. Because what are you getting? You're getting chemicals. You're getting crap. What do you think you're going to get from a $30 Facebook newbie photographer? Nothing. It's not going to be good. So why would you be tempted? Just don't do it. Just save up, do it the right way, enjoy the experience. And the whole point is to get some lasting memories that you can look back on and go, boy, I remember that time. I remember that day. That was a great experience. I love these pictures. Whenever I look at them, I feel great about myself. And, it's a lot more than just, the low price is just one part of the overall cost. And it's just, usually it's not worth the gamble, like in a newbie group or, oh, my coworker's friend just started a boudoir business and I'm going to let her do my wedding album. Don't do it. As tempting as it is, don't shop that way. Just don't do it. Good question. Thanks for sending that in tonight. And yeah, this I remember putting in here, and this is a similar type of a question. And take a moment to talk about this, but person comment or so is, oh my God, I won a boudoir shoot at a bridal show and received a few prints and an album credit of $100, etc., blah, blah, other things on this package. I was super excited, but it turned into a mess. And the photos were poor, and the photographer, I couldn't even fit this on one slide, so I have to continue it on the next slide. And the photographer didn't seem to know what she was doing. I was so bummed out, but I really didn't complain to her. I really wanted a boudoir album for my wedding. Is it worth redoing my session? Help. And this happens, like we have this theme in these questions tonight. And this is a real thing, again, from people not making a smart choice, and it winds up costing them a lot more than it would have if they chose to go with someone, that was experienced and good at what they were doing. And yes, people do redo albums. I know I've been part of that quite a few times where people didn't necessarily tell me up front, but when we were in the session, I would hear the story. This is for my wedding and things turned out so bad and I'm here to reshoot the whole thing, which gives me extra motivation. But I've been a part of a couple of redos. So people have done that because they were very excited. They wanted these pictures. They had this idea in mind for their anniversary or their wedding. And they, went that kind of discount route, didn't like what they wanted. And it didn't turn out great. And, a lot of people aren't going to say to the photographer, oh, this is really bad, or I'm not happy. They're just kind of quiet and they're just like, oh, that was just a waste of X amount of dollars. And sometimes, they just, and I've seen some of these photos and they're not good. And, I've had to reshoot. And I remember one woman actually had a phone full of the poses that she liked, and I thought it was going to look, and we had to go, through quite a few of these poses she wanted to redo and redo these shots. And it can happen. And, people feel very unfulfilled. Or if you go out for like a restaurant and you think it's going to be good and it's a really bad meal, you kind of don't feel satiated, and people want these gifts and they want it to be a certain way, and it didn't turn out that way. So in a really bad situation, yeah, you can redo your session. I think for peace of mind, it's worth it. Obviously, you're not going to the same person, but you would not be the first person to do that. I don't know how often this happens. Like I said, I know it happens to me. Just have to, again, shop smarter. Make sure that the person you're going to, your vision is in line with them. If you have these poses with the legs on the bed that you want to do, and make sure there's something that looks like that on that photographer's website where you're looking at it and going, yeah, I can see this is exactly what I want. I want it just like that. And, don't just, bridal shows are very hit or miss for don't book blindly like that, or just because someone is offering you some great deal. Like I said, it's the bad ice cream. It's $2.99 bag or a box of just like foam. It's all it is. It's that soybean, or it's that I'm losing track of what kind of foam, that fake ice cream. It's what it is. It's not real. It's just, don't do that. And yes, you can reshoot your album. Just find a better photographer, and good luck on that. I know it's frustrating, and it's not a good time for anybody. So sorry that happened to you. Enough ice cream talk. Moving on to our next. Yeah, this is like the rant show. Not a lot of happy questions. Happy questions in there. Okay, this is another similar thing as I talk with ice cubes in my mouth. Real professional, Mike. Real good, Mike. But that's going to drive me nuts because I can't remember what I was trying to think of with the ice cream, but it'll pop to my head in a minute. See, that's how I focus on things. I can't go on when I'm fixated on something. But we will proceed. So this is a important thing to listen to in this question. We have this theme here, I guess, tonight of people not getting quite what they expected, and people think it's all roses out there in Boudoirville. But this is a long question too. I had to put it on 2 slides. But okay, I got a text. I won a free boudoir session after attending a bridal show from, I redacted the name of the photographer there. I got 2 free photos. They text me, I got 2 free photos, credits towards buying other stuff, blah, blah, blah. And it was free. So, why wouldn't, right? If someone's contacting you for a free boudoir shoot, and they contacted every other person at that bridal event too, when they get that list at the end of I guess when you go to a bridal show, those people, the event people there are usually paying a lot of money to be there. And at the end of the show, usually the organizers hand all the vendors, all the people who, paid to go to that show, or if it's not paid, signed up to go to the show, with usually their emails or their phone numbers or both, so they can hound the people after the show, the people that were there. So that's how they text you. So got a text, free boudoir, free. Again, ears should perk up when you hear something like that. Turns out I had to pay $50 to book my spot, so not free. And I got to continue on to part B. And I was trying to find out if there was any other costs involved, and they didn't want to really talk about it. But it turns out they charge obscenely high rates per photo, and she found out from another person at that bridal event who also got the same text and went and did this before she did. And it seems like a trap. Do you have any thoughts on this? Well, there are two separate things going on here, and I will talk about one on the client side and one on the photographer side. And I'll start with the photographer side first. Now, this kind of, I hate to call it a scheme, depends on your point of view. Some call it like a marketing tactic or a way to market your business. It can be very schemey, and it's been around for a long, long time, where people advertise free session, free boudoir session, and this used to be around a little bit. I always forget the name of that, 8-10 years ago when that Living Social was out, and I forget the other one, those deal websites. They used to drive me crazy. Free boudoir session. And who doesn't want that for your wedding? Because we're going to be a free, and from the photographer's point of view, they're charging you $50 because they know if they're booking somebody and the person has no buy-in, they ain't showing up. And so they learned they got to, even though they're calling it free, they're going to charge everybody $50 so people show up, because they'll book 5 people for free on that day and not charge anybody. And you know how many of those 5 people are going to show up on that day? Probably 0, maybe 1. So they charge people just to get that buy-in to show up. And then what they'll say sometimes, it'll go towards a credit, or, if you show up, we'll refund you that money. There's a bunch of stories. But ultimately, it's a way to get people into sessions, and then you're on the back end is where they're going to try to get all this money from you and try to hide those costs as much as possible. So they'll bring you in and promise you 2 pictures, and they'll probably be 2 unedited photos, or just 2, they've done nothing to. And then they'll say, oh, yeah, but what am I supposed to do with 2 unedited photos? Oh, well, it turns out, you can buy as many more as you want to. Well, this was going to be my anniversary gift or my wedding gift. I can't use 2 unedited photos. Well, if you buy 10 more photos from us, we'll only charge you $150 a photo for if you get 10. And you're like, wait a second. 10 photos at $150? It's like $1,500. Well, the price goes down. If you buy 30 photos, we'll only charge you $30. And so you get into this hard sell situation where photographers aren't working for free. So, and people fall for this all the time. And it's not photography. They do in everything. If you're getting carpet in your house, they have free installation. You really think it's free? Or are they just taking, do you think those installers work for free? They go home, oh boy, honey, I came home today, I worked all day for nothing. No, of course not. They're getting paid the same amount. They're just calling it free, and then they're backloading that into your carpet price or wherever they're putting it. So all they're doing is shifting the cost. Now, they may defer their session costs, because some photographers work with a session fee, and then they may charge you for a la carte pictures like afterwards or albums or whatever you want to get. So all they're doing is taking that free session, even though they're charging it $50 to hold the spot, and jamming all that onto the products that you are getting. So there's no free ride in boudoir photography like that. Now, as long as you are aware, or if they're telling you, yes, and if you want photos, you're going to be spending $700, $800, $900, $1,000, if you $3,000, whatever it is, that we could say, whoa, that doesn't really sound free. And I don't have $2,200 to spend on an album. And you don't have to go. But a lot of times they withhold that information until they get the people there, they do the session, and then it becomes a hard sell. Normally we charge $4,000, but today we're just going to give it to you for $2,000 for these couple of photos. So it becomes this hard sell situation. Not always, but I'm saying traditionally this can go very wrong. And then people, again, it's not about creating a great customer experience. It's not about doing boudoir the way it should be done. It's about, and I don't want to say it's evil, but it's like, skirting around the rules. You know how they're in football or something, there may be a play or something you do, it's not really on the, so people take advantage of these little things, and then the next year they're like, oh, we're going to put in the rules, you can't do that anymore. But when you were doing it, it was kind of a gray area and you kind of got away with it. It's kind of like that gray area. You know, it's not really how you would want to operate as a woman's photographer in a lot of cases, because it's just not the whole how it should go. It's really just to get people in and slam them with a bunch of, you know, like costs afterwards. So, and this has been, like I said, at bridal shows, this is a big thing because people don't want to spend money. This is our theme tonight, right? No one, whatever's cheaper is going to be better. So this is where they're shaking that little box. Oh, you want a box of free ice cream? Oh, well, we'll give you the box for free, but if you want what's in the box, you got to pay like $3,000. So they're taking, again, advantage of people who want to find the lowest thing possible, and they're sticking it to them. If they're upfront about it, it's a little less suspect, saying, yeah, the session's free. Here's, you know, if they give you the information up front that you can make a decision before you go in that day, and you say, all right, these are all the prices, and you can make up your mind and see whether it's worth it or not, you know, that's another thing. But often they don't want to tell you anything because they want to wait till you're there and put this high pressure sales pitch on you. So never been a fan of that. Never been a fan of not having that full disclosure about what's going on. It's just not how you should operate in boudoir photography like that. But people do it. You know, not my thing. On the client side, you have to be aware, like I noted, that people are not going to be working for free. So you can't be naive to think you are going to get a bridal album, whatever it is, for nothing or for super low costs. They're just dangling the carrot. You fell for it because you didn't ask the questions. You didn't do your work. You didn't go online to see if this company has a history of doing that, because you know, this leaves a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. And what happens is people write about it. I got ripped off, or this whole thing was it. You'll see, was this a scam? And was this, you know, so you didn't want to believe it. And then it happened to you because you saw the word free. So you have to be a bit more vigilant. And that's the whole point of what we talk about here as someone getting involved in boudoir photography. You know, I would always be suspect if someone didn't want to explain the whole situation to someone, if they are not involved in having that open dialogue from you, if they are not there if you have questions. You have to, you know, be a bit smarter when it comes to photography. Again, do not think that all women's photographers are the same. They are certainly not. Just like all restaurants are not the same. Kitchen nightmares. You know, just because someone owns a restaurant doesn't mean they have any idea what they're doing. And then you usually find out when you get violently ill. Not a good thing. In this case, they're just trying to get money from people under a high pressure situation. Mostly, it's not great. So it's always left a bad taste in my mouth, but it's not necessarily wrong. In some situations, the clients or the people who are at bridal shows or get these offers have to use their brains a bit more and start asking some hard questions about what is going on here and why would anything be free. You know, because usually it's going to turn out pretty rough. What you think is going to be, it's just going to turn out in the opposite way. And either you're there, you go again into that experience and it's a hard sell to buy a bunch of stuff you can't afford, or you're hard sold to buy stuff you can't afford and you buy it knowing you're going to put yourself in debt. And either way though, it's not a great thing. It's not a great experience for the person. Your odds are you're not walking out of that situation going, wow, and thinking fondly of it. And even if you catch on and get out of there, it's still a waste of your time and going through that stress. And who wants to be in that situation of stress and going through that? So just be very careful at bridal shows, or if you start to get those text messages for free, because that's how these photographers want to suck you in. Ask a lot of questions. Look online to see the history of this person, or if this is what they do. And now there's nothing wrong with if there's a sale or a bargain, but just make sure of everything that's involved, and don't go in thinking something is for free and getting a hard sell for $2,000 worth of stuff, and then being in a room with 2 or 3 people like interrogated. They put you in a chair and then they're high pressure selling you, and you buy today, because it's not like weird used car sales kind of stuff. It's terrible experience for the women. I've heard about that too, and again, you're probably not in like physical danger, but it's just not how you operate as a woman's photographer. And I just was never a big fan of that. And they're just, what they do is just bank on the numbers game. They want to get just all, because they don't care if someone has a bad, they don't care, because there's always going to be a few in there that bite who can't say no. And they're like, I got him. And I got 15, I got 18, we got $2,000 from this woman today under duress. We can go home, and it's not a great way to operate, so just be really careful when you hear about stuff like that, and really look into it, because I always feel horrible, again, hearing stories like that. Boy, that was a rant. I'll keep these ones shorter. So those are my thoughts. I am a 24F. Really would like to do a boudoir shoot for my fiance, but I don't know if I'd be comfortable with a stranger photographing me in this way. Is this normal? And do people do it anyway? Thanks. And I know what she's asking. It's not a typical situation or something that you do all the time as a woman to go to a strange location, take your clothes off, and have a stranger start to take pictures of you from head to toe. It's not a normal thing. So you are right to be like, I don't know about this. It could be fun, but as we've seen in some of these examples, it could not be a good situation as well. So people do go through with it anyway. But the key is, as we've been talking about all night long, is you really, really have to put in your homework, research the photographer. If you have friends or coworkers that have had boudoir sessions for their weddings or Christmases, talk to them. That really helps. Find out about their experience, who they worked with, but do a lot of work. Read about the photographer, read their reviews, look at their work. And I know it's like very bizarre to say, but call and talk to the person, get a sense of how they work, and see how you feel about talking to them in person. And bring a friend if you're going, because most women are nervous going into their sessions. That's very, very sort of typical. And in my case, I like to keep them a little nervous, a little excitement in there. However, when you get to your session, it is the photographer's job. And if they have been doing this a long time, it's not even an overt thing. They will walk you through this whole process. And when done right, I will assure you that within 5 minutes or so, you start going into your session and doing what you're doing, there's this change that happens. And you go from, I don't know, to, this is pretty fun. And it's this wonderful switch that goes from, nerves at first to people are having a great time. And usually they don't even want to leave by the end of it. And a lot of that just has to all come down to the person that you're working with, because they're creating that atmosphere of trust and fun, and they're the host and walking you through this whole thing, making you feel good about yourself. And it's not something like we were talking about a couple of questions ago that you're probably going to get out of a $30 newbie Facebook photographer group. And that makes all the difference in the world. It's all the difference in the world. And again, talking about buying fake ice cream, in the grocery store because it's cheaper. You're not even getting, find somebody who is very competent in what they're doing, the real thing, which is not always going to be the cheapest thing. And that's what a lot of people struggle with. If you want to have a pleasant experience and a great, it's going to cost you. So that's what you have to ask yourself. What is it worth? This looks fun. I've heard that people have a great time doing this. What is it worth for me? Is it really worth spending on a competent professional who's been doing this a long time, that's very experienced? I talked to this photographer, got along real well with them, and yeah, I feel much better about this. That's the way to proceed with something like this, and go ahead and do it. So that's my advice on that. You'll have a good time. Just, any questions you might have, ask the photographer. You're not going to drive them crazy up to the session. Tell them that you're anxious. They'll say it's fine. They'll make sure you feel comfortable there before you're doing anything. Chat for a while, look over your outfits, and then slowly kind of get into it, and sort of take it from there. And you'll see that it's fun to do, and you will have a great time. And I think she wanted to chat a little bit more with me, and we may do that in the next week or so. She's not by me, so not going to be working with me, but trying to help her out there on some questions. So she'll be fine. And I think we're getting to the end here. Got one, oh, there's one more. Boy, we're really running long here today, but that's okay. Hey, weird question. Should I tip my boudoir photographer? I mean, I paid like $700 for my shoot. Any advice is appreciated. And sometimes people, and I've seen this happen too. Like I've worked with makeup artists. I think pretty much they all tip the makeup people. I think, I don't pay too much attention, but I think they tip them, and people are unsure whether they should be tipping me or not. They're reaching into their purses and get some money. I'm like, no, should I tip? And I personally don't want anybody's tip, and I'm like, you don't have to give me a tip. And sometimes people are like, just take it. Really had a great time, and really I appreciate it. I'm like, I really don't want your tip. I don't think that, again, photographers, they're professional doing with it. You don't have to tip them. Don't feel like you need to or you have to. I have heard, people, and sometimes I've found they've left me money behind, and I'm really reluctant. I feel awkward taking tips from people, me personally. But in general, I don't think you need to tip your boudoir photographer. They're doing a great service for you. I understand, and your appreciation, I sort of get it. It's not required. Now, there may be some willing, oh, thank you, and here's a cup of money, get a cup of coffee, or go get yourself a pizza. It's not a big deal, but it's not super required. So if you want to, I'm sure they'll take a couple dollars from you, but by no means are they expecting any kind of gratuity for their services. So you got enough stress, like we're just talking about. Everyone's stressed going into your session. Don't worry about tip stress. It's not like when you go into Dunkin' Donuts to buy a coffee and they turn that screen around and they expect you to be given a tip for a cup of coffee. That's another whole thing that drives me nuts. Everyone wants tips now. It's crazy. But no, don't feel stressed about photographers don't need tips. But good question, because something I wasn't thinking about, but that's why we're doing the show. And I think lastly this evening, we're getting the lighter question. We got all the heavy stuff done in the beginning. Now I'm exhausted. But do boudoir photographers play music during a session? Can I bring my own music? I'd be much more comfortable with some fun music. So, yes, I think all boudoir photographers are going to be playing music. Otherwise, it's kind of quiet and library-ish. So, I know I always have my Bluetooth speakers and playing music, and it's not blasting loud, but at least it's giving some ambiance to the room. When I go, see, I'm so bad. I try to, talk about like judging people. I try to size up the person and try to guess on what they would listen to. And I go into like a Spotify playlist, 90s hits, or I try to find something that's bad, but no one's ever complained to me yet. I try to put something on that maybe I think that they would like to listen to, and it's usually low and we're talking, so it's not that much of a problem. But yeah, music's usually on. I've had people ask me to put on certain music, and there's no problem with that. I think a lot of people don't travel. They may have their phone, and you can play music with your phone, but I don't think a lot of people are traveling with their Bluetooth speakers and stuff like that. But you could certainly tell your photographer the type of music you'd want to listen to, because I know I just use my Spotify and I have a Bluetooth, and so you could look up anything on there. So unless you have a very specific playlist that you wanted to do, but no issues with inputting your music and playing something like that at your session, and it's fun to do. And going to be there, it's a lot of music. You're there for a couple hours, so there's a lot of music playing, so I'm sure you can get through some of your songs and listen to them when you're in there. So that's a good song, and it does make you comfortable and loosens people up, makes them relax. We're talking about relaxing tonight and enjoying the session. So I think pretty much all photographers are playing music. I don't think anybody would mind if you play your own or bring your own music. Just don't walk in with a big record player. That's probably not what they mean. But if you're going to be playing your own music there, I'm sure that's fine. I'm sure you'll enjoy your session. Bring music, listen to music. So that's your answer on that one. Thanks for sending in that question. And we got to the end. We made it through. That was an intense bunch of questions we had tonight. That was a lot of stuff. And for someone so tired, maybe I'm overtired, got through a lot of these situational questions we had tonight. And as you can see, it's not always straightforward, and it's not always so easy. And don't ever assume that just because someone calls themselves a pro, they know what they're doing. Anybody can call themselves a pro photographer. Doesn't mean anything. They could have started their business 2 weeks ago, have no experience. Yeah, but I got a great camera. What does that have to do with anything? Remember, you could buy the most expensive golf clubs or buy an expensive guitar. It doesn't mean you know how to play it. So this is all about learning what to look for, learning what to ask for. The most important things are talking to the photographer, asking questions. Something is free, it ain't going to be free. Usually you're paying for it a lot more on the other end. So we want everybody to have a great experience when they go in for their photos, wind up with something they enjoy, and they can look back on and say, gee, I had a wonderful time during that session. And that can take some work. It's not a given. It just isn't. And always, 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 and we've talked about it a couple times in this show, all restaurants are not the same. Do not think that all photographers are the same. And that just goes for all photographers, not just boudoir photographers, but all photographers are the same. There are good ones, there are bad ones, most are in the middle, and you really need to do some work. It's not as easy as straightforward. And then again, with women's photography, you're just so vulnerable going into these situations. So why risk it? Why put yourself in an awkward situation with a Facebook $30 photographer who's started taking pictures 3 weeks ago? It's not worth it. Don't go for the emulsified, frothy, foamy, fake ice cream just because it's a few dollars less. It's just going to upset your stomach and not be great. How can anything be good for you that doesn't melt when it sits on the counter all night long? Yeah, you spent less, but what are the real costs? Chemicals. With boudoir, it's the same thing. Yeah, I spent $30, but what are you going to get for that? You're going to give yourself a headache and bad pictures. It's not what we do. It's not what it's all about. So we want women to learn about this, shop smart, so that way they can go to do their session, walk away with a great experience, get beautiful photos that they can look back on, and have a great time doing it. So that's the whole point of this show, to educate people so they can make smart choices. As you can see, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of situations. So be smart, shop smart. And as always, if you have any questions about your upcoming session or anything like that, you can always leave them down below. A lot of the questions I receive just come to me in email or people on my chat on my website, and then we kind of put them in an episode. And a lot of these people I wind up chatting with or texting with, and resolve these issues prior to this. I don't leave people hanging, but you know, I appreciate everybody who's been sending in their questions. Been on here for almost 50 minutes. My voice is shot. I'm tired. So I'm going to get the hell out of here. So I want to thank everybody for watching tonight, and I will see you next time. Good night, everybody. Thanks for watching.